All right, Seline Shenoy, welcome to the Happy Hustle podcast. I am very excited to connect.
Hey, Cary, I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, my pleasure. You are a blogger with over 3 million views on your blog, thedreamcatch.com. You're a podcast host, you're a journalist, all on topics related to self-help and psychology and personal growth and wellness and social issues. So many great topics we could dive into, and I'm excited to do just that. But before we do, Seline, tell us something that's interesting about yourself that not too many people know.
Hmm. Well, I talk a lot about myself on my blog, so there's not a lot of things that people don't know. I would say a lot of people don't know that I'm a bit of a hermit, and I think that's because it comes within the territory of being a writer, because you kind of need that space and that time for your ideas to blossom. So, yeah, I like to be by myself. I'm not like one of those people who get self-conscious eating in a restaurant by myself or anything like. So yeah, I love my own company. Like the pandemic wasn't too difficult for me. I did miss my family and friends, but it was fine. I was actually very productive. So,
I love that. I love that response. And I do totally hear you. Like, when you eat in public solo, you do, like, at least I do sometimes do feel self-conscious of
oh, do
like,
you?
ugh. But
Okay.
but you saying that you don't just makes me rethink, okay, where's that coming from? Is that ego or is that me not comfortable in my own skin, and the fact that you own it and say, I love myself, I love my company, I don't need others. I think that's just a great message there.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I have nothing to prove, and these are all strangers. So I mean, I see them now. I'm probably not going to see them again. Like, it's just, yeah. I really, it doesn't bother me at all,
That's
and it
awesome.
shouldn't bother anyone else. Like, if you just want to go and have a meal by yourself, just do it.
Yeah, no, so true. And Celine, I want to dive in to your writing and content strategy, because I know the happy hustlers out there are all creating content. They want to share their message, their mission with the world. And you've done a great job of cultivating your message, especially on your blog, especially with writing. I mean, getting featured in Forbes and Elite Daily and NBC and a bunch of like really cool, platforms that share your content. Give us like maybe the first and biggest mistake that you see most frequently when people are sharing their content online.
Mm, I think the biggest mistake that people make is that they lack originality and they lack a unique point of view. It's they try to take on a very cookie cutter approach to writing. It's like
Mhm,
um you got to have a point of view. You got to think about, okay, what am I trying to say here? How can I be different? If you look at some of the top bloggers, and in fact YouTube stars, why do people love them so much? Because they're different, because the
mm,
content is different. It makes you think, oh, I never thought of it that way. It's just, it should get people to think differently, and for that to happen, you gotta really excavate and be like, okay, what do I think about this issue? For instance, if you're writing something about a trend, for instance, a beauty trend, do you like it? Do you not like it? Why not? Can you back it up with some examples? So I think it's really digging deep and not just trying to just put a bunch of words together and put it out there.
mm,
um, because now you find there's so many generic blogs out there now. I mean, they hire, I mean, because I'm in the content creation industry, they hire a bunch of writers and they're like robots. They would just be like, oh, write about this topic, and they just write a very, very standardized piece. I see so many of those out there now, and I'm like, there's nothing, there's no juice in this. There's nothing that makes it stand out from every other article or blog piece on this topic. So what's special about this one? So you got to think about, how can I put a twist to it? How can I make it different? And how can I make it me? How can I infuse a part of my personality into what I'm creating? That's what they need to keep in mind, and avoid being like everybody else. Stop creating sheep content.
Ah, love that. So the sheeple out there, who
The
just,
sheeple, exactly.
yeah, they just follow like the norm, or like copy and paste what they think is working, and steal ideas, or like
Yeah,
listen
it
to the
happens to me too.
gurus.
It happens a
Yeah,
lot, yeah, to me.
yeah,
And I'll see someone writing a blog post very similar to mine, and I mean that comes within the territory of being a creative person. It's just, people will try to copy you in some way or the other, but that doesn't matter. That shouldn't stop you. Just
yeah. It's so true. And I think to your point, like being unapologetically yourself, different is better than better, like,
and
or
that's what gets you
whatever.
followers.
Yeah.
That's what makes you a thought leader.
Yeah, it's so true. You have to just be different. Put your own unique spin on it and look at
Sure.
it from your lens. And I'm curious, Celine, what does your creative process look like to creating content? Do you have a structured, process that you can share with the happy hustlers out there?
Okay, so it usually starts with an idea. I have a content calendar that I maintain for every quarter. I think about what I'm going to post each week and what is the theme going to be about. So I have that ready. So every week when I'm starting to write a post, I look at that. I brainstorm. I do something called a what is that called? Um, that map.
Mind
Why
map? The mind map?
yes, the mind map, exactly. So I do a mind map and I think about all the different topics, that all the different interrelated topics to that main idea that I have. So I create a rough outline, then I do research. I look for quotes, I look for excerpts, I look for um, examples in pop culture and such, because that makes it a little bit more relatable. Because I've been known to write very formal language, so I need to make it more uh, more accessible to people. So I try to
More slang.
more slang because I try to be I tend to be proper in the way I so, and I've been told, no, that's too stuffy. You need to be more accessible. So that's something I learned over the years. But anyway, so I do research and then I kind of just plug it in to the outline. And then I just write a second draft. I know I'm getting into the nitty gritty now.
No, I like it.
And my advice is when you're doing those drafts, don't be self-conscious. Like just do a brain dump. It's okay to have a really crappy first or second draft because then later on you can edit it and clean it up and be like, okay, how does this work? And is this making sense? How is the flow? How is the organization of the content and such? So yeah, so that's pretty much my process. And then the icing is, adding the hyperlinks, adding any images and things like that. I work with a proofreader. She's been with me for a few years, so she takes because I feel like I need another pair of eyes. So she takes a look at it and she's like, okay, you know what, this you could change this, you could do that. So yeah, that's pretty much the process that I follow. I do keep SEO in mind. I keep keywords in mind. I use some SEO tools. I use
What
Yoast.
tools? Oh,
I use
Yoast. Okay.
Yoast, and I use BuzzSumo. I try to find out what are the top trending articles in the topic that I'm writing about. I take all of that into consideration because if you really want, SEO is super important when it comes to content. I mean, everyone knows that, but like I really want to emphasize that because
Mhm.
if people can't find your stuff, then what's the point? It's just going to be out there doing nothing.
So
So
true.
yeah,
So let me recap that process. So you start with the mind map where you're basically, let's say you're writing about, personal development, and you then do a mind map where you're writing subtopics underneath it where you could go in regards to personal development. Then you'll basically start the research component. So you
yes,
got the mind map, then the research where you find quotes, you find examples in pop culture, you look at, real life case scenarios,
yeah.
stories that you can use in regards to personal
Personal anecdote.
development,
Personal
personal
anecdote.
and yep. Okay, personal anecdotes. Then you'll put out basically a first draft where you'll just sit down. Do you time block? Do you say, okay, I do 1 hour and then I
I
got to
wish
write 500
I wish
words or
I wish I did that, Cary, because that way I could save so much time. But I don't know if anyone has, whenever they're engaged in a creative activity, sometimes you just lose track of time. So
yeah.
because you get into that state of flow. So
Hmm.
it's like I just write, and then I look at the clock. Oh my God, 3 hours have just passed by. It's like, oh my God. No, I mean,
I
sometimes it's
get that.
3 hours, but most of the times it's about 2 hours for the first draft. Um,
Got it.
yeah, I put
And
a
how
lot of
many
time.
words?
Yeah, I do.
How many words does that usually come out to be?
Usually 1,200 to 1,400.
Okay. And that is that, based on your research, the healthy length of a blog post?
It really depends. Like it I'd say 800 is a minimum, but if you want to go longer, you got to be careful about how you format your content. You got to make it readable and scannable. That's the only thing with long form content. You got to be a little bit cautious about how you organize it, because people
Mm,
don't have time, right? People don't have time to read 1,200 words. A lot of people don't. Because I always try to keep in mind, not everyone's a reader. Um, like I am. My brother, for instance, if I would be like, hey bro, like this book is amazing, and he's like, oh, just give me a summary of it, because he's like, I don't want to
yeah.
read it.
Yeah. Or
No,
the audio version.
give me the audio version. Like, he just, so I try to keep that in mind, and that's why I've added like an audio embed of recording of all my articles over the past couple of months, because I feel like people who don't want to read it can listen to it.
That's interesting. So you actually read it, or do you have like AI read it? Like,
I'm doing AI because it's a lot of work. Like, Cary, I don't have the time to read
what?
recording, because I'm doing the podcast as well, and yeah, I got to be
Yeah,
judicious about how I spend my time.
for sure. What do you do in order to have AI read it? What's the system that you use? I'm curious.
There is a program that I use, voice.com voice. There is a program that I use for it. So I just plug it in. I just put in the words, and I choose the type of voice that I want. And yeah, I mean, I gotta watch out, because you gotta like trim the content and change certain words and make sure it won't sound funny, because it's not a real human being reading it. So
Hmm.
but you figure out how to do it with practice.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay. So let me recap. So you start with the mind map, then you do the research, then
Mhm.
you do the first draft, then you basically send it to your proofreader who
Yeah.
gives it another look over.
Yes.
You'll then insert hyperlinks and pictures
Mhm.
or, anything that might add value.
Correct.
You write the headline before you start the article, or do you write the headline after?
Oh, always the first thing that I write is the headline.
Oh, okay. So
There are
that's a good
some
point.
rare occasions when the proofreaders be like, that sounds a little funny, or it's a bit too clunky. You might want to change it. But usually, yeah, I I I decide on what the title is going to be before I write it.
Yeah,
That kind of
that's a
guides me. That gives that it kind of it sets off the creative process. So
yeah. I think it's a great point. The headline, your hook, has to be engaging. It has to be
so important.
captivating. Yeah, and
So important. Yes.
I really do think writing the headline first, and I
It's an art.
listen to it is.
It's an art. Yeah, because that's what
Yeah,
people see. I mean, that's what they're going to use to decide, am I going to click on this and read it or not? And yeah, it can make or break your content, your
for
headline.
sure. Yeah. And okay, so and then you have your proofreader read it, then you'll do the final touches, and then basically it goes live, right? Is that the process? Yeah.
Exactly. Oh, I choose stock images. I use good
Okay.
quality stock images. I recommend that. So
Do
yeah.
you use a site in particular for those?
I use Shutterstock. Yeah.
I'm getting all your dirty secrets out to the happy hustlers out there. This is the stuff that really matters though, guys out there
Yeah,
listening, all you happy
it
hustlers. Like,
is. It does matter. And use quality images. I cannot emphasize the importance of images because that you'd be surprised how important they are. Like, yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's definitely something where if you're not checking all these boxes when you're going through and creating content, you'll mess up and you'll miss one. And then you'll wonder why your stuff isn't getting read or not going
Yeah.
viral. Like you're getting millions of views on your blog, Seline, because you do the little things. You every single time you put out content, you're making sure the headlines, you know, not necessarily clickbaity, but it is captivating. It speaks to the
I
person.
I'm guilty of being clickbaity. Like I did that initially because everyone was doing it, but I'm just like, no, I don't need to do it. I just don't. I won't do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's a learning curve. It took me a few years to get to this point. You find your own method of madness that works for you, um, and uh, and yeah, I mean, just I would say to people, experiment, pay attention to the key metrics, trial and error, just see what's working, see what's not working, and keep going at it. You'll get it.
And I think that's a great point. Now, I'm curious too, because I know you write for your own blog, but you
Mhm.
also write for companies like Microsoft and
I
you
do.
content create for really, big platforms.
I do.
Now, for someone who wants to write for other platforms, let's say the happy hustlers out there, they want to write for Entrepreneur Magazine or Forbes or get featured in, Huffington Post or one of those.
Mhm.
Do you have any like best practices or tips for someone who's trying to get their articles or blogs shared to those platforms?
Mm. Uh, I would say two things. First, have an extremely good pitch because all these magazines, they look at your pitch. Like, be very clear about what your idea is, clearly lay it out to them, and make sure you do some research on the publication that you're pitching to. See what kind of content they're writing, what kind of articles, what topics would interest them, and really tailor your pitch. Make sure that it really speaks to them and their needs, their publications needs. And secondly, connections help, especially with really big like online publications like Forbes and Huffington Post, because they get a ton of um, inquiries. So if you want to stand out and cut through all that clutter, it really helps to know people. And I mean, if you have the money, work with a PR agency because they can, a lot of them, the good ones, can get you straight to the door. But I realize that not a lot of people want to invest in a PR firm. But yeah,
Yeah, those are great points there. Definitely know your pitch and
know
know
your
your audience,
mm,
who you're writing for. If is it for
exactly.
men's health or is it for, teen Vogue? Like that's gonna be a completely different person reading it.
Correct. Yes, but the gatekeepers are the editors. So they're your first audience. So you got to convince them first. And they don't, a lot of them don't require you to submit the whole article. They just want like a pitch first. Like, what is it going to be about? Just the essence of what you're going to write. So,
Mm. That's a good point. Yeah, and I think that's definitely important for everyone out there listening, relationships, building them,
very important.
digging your well before you're thirsty, like start to find a way to add value to these people who maybe you can help you in the future. I think it's such a key part and a lot of my business successes come from relationship building and
Yeah.
then I know it is a little bit like cliche to just say add value to this person, but that's the truth. Add value before you actually need anything. It's what a concept. Just be a good human and see how you can help others, and it
Yeah.
will come full circle.
Yeah. Follow them on Twitter, follow them on social media, interact with them. Get in. get into their sphere. Like let them see. Sorry, what I meant to say is get in their radar. Get in their radar.
Yeah.
Let them know that
Yeah.
you exist. Because if you're gonna do like cold emails and cold calls, uh, I generally don't really succeed with that strategy unless you're really persistent. But then you might risk being a pest. to,
Yep. Yeah, there's a fine line.
yeah.
Yeah, very true. Well, this has been great just getting some of those insights, Celine. I really appreciate you
No
diving
problem.
deep and kind of
Yeah.
extracting that creative process from you and how you actually go about it. I'm curious, Celine, I ask all my guests this. What was your childhood like? And if you can recall, what was your first hustle, the thing you first did for money?
Okay. I didn't work during my childhood, but no, my childhood was great. It was the golden era of my life. I had so much fun. Played a lot of video games. I was into Sega. I was a
Nice.
Sega girl. Played every single Sega game. Yeah, I mean, I'm very lucky. I had a great childhood. A lot of fun memories with my family. But
You were
as far
born
as
in Dubai too, right?
that is correct. Yes, I was born in Dubai. It was a lovely childhood, but we traveled a lot. We came to the U.S. almost every year. So I kind of built that U.S. connection in the early phase of my life. We used to go to Disney World, um, and we used to go to Florida a lot. So that was great. I loved my childhood. So just answering the second question, when it was the first time that I worked? It was an internship that I did at a bank. I was doing market research and preparing reports for the CEO.
Hmm.
And it was great to get paid, but the work itself, Cary, was mind-numbingly boring.
I bet.
And I said to myself, I'm never doing this kind of work again. That's for sure. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. It's tough, like when you're not stimulated by your work and you just have very little motivation to get up and get after it because
Yes.
it doesn't fulfill you. That's what the
Yeah.
happy hustle is all about, is to do fulfilling work and stay balanced in the process, really
Right.
making sure that you're not just working or just playing. It's balance equals happiness, in my opinion. But very cool. That's awesome. Now, I like to ask all my guests what I like to deem as happy hustle hacks in a couple different disciplines. First
Okay.
being health. Let's face it, health equals wealth. If you don't have your health, you can't write, blog articles or podcast or books or anything. You have to really focus on your health. And I know health's a big, part of your life. You write about it as well. Can you share a happy hustle hack, maybe something that you do that maybe could add value to the listeners?
So when you talk about health, are you talking physical health or
Both mental and physical.
okay, so with health, there's no one size fit all, right? You got to do what works for you. For instance, some people love yoga. They love Pilates. I hate that. I hate it. It's too boring for me. I need exercise that's more dynamic. That's why I love to run and do weights. So I would say when it comes to physical exercise, find something that works for you. Find something that your body's responsive to, that you enjoy. Um, and and yeah, but just be active. I mean, that's I mean, everyone knows that, but do something that you enjoy. Because you're gonna do it almost every day. So, you know. Um, yeah, I mean, and I'm thinking about what other facets of health do you want me to
Well,
cover?
no, I think you nailed it. Like you really need to do something
Yeah,
that you enjoy. If you don't enjoy yoga or Pilates, don't do it. Do weights or running. If that's what Celine enjoys, great. And I think for all the happy hustlers out there, you got to figure out what you enjoy doing so that your workouts become something that you look forward to, not something
exactly,
that you dread. Yeah.
exactly,
Great
exactly.
point there. Let's talk about money. Do you have, I mean, let's face it, I'm sure you've made a bunch. I'm sure you lost a bunch or could have made more, whatever, right? We all learn about money in a different way, sometimes the hard way. What is a happy hustle hack that you use in regards to money that you think might add value to the listeners?
Um, I mean, this is gonna sound pretty trite, but I think saving for a rainy day, putting money away, is super, super important because there's always that temptation to spend everything, especially when you make a whole bunch of money. I mean, I actually had to work with a money coach. I worked with a money coach for a couple of years because I really had some unhealthy beliefs about money because of some of the things that I witnessed in my family. So that for me created a big shift when it came to how I handled my money and how I appreciate it from an energetic perspective because money is essentially energy. um, so I think one of the most valuable things I learned from my money coach is uh, knowing the difference between a need and a want. Like, for instance, like a need would be a roof above your head, food, um, and I don't know, it could be something more personal, such as books. For my case, books. And a want is like, I wanted, but I could live without it. It could be like
Shoes.
a new pair of shoes. I was gonna say a new pair of shoes. Or shopping at Whole Foods, buying stuff from Whole Foods. So I think it's knowing the difference between the two, and if money ever gets tight, you know where you should be channeling your funds towards. So just being very clear about that, about where your priorities lie when it comes to your money, and I think having a money planning software helps because I use one. My coach recommended a software to me, so I keep track of my money. I
Which one
make
do you use?
it's called Money Grit. Money
Money
Grit.
Grid. Huh.
Yeah. It's actually co-founded by my money coach. Her name is
Oh,
Michael.
cool.
She's based in Seattle. So yeah, so that really helps me a lot because it prevents me from getting into money fog, which is like I have no idea where my money is going, and yeah, it makes me more conscious about how I'm spending it. So yeah, I think those are some of the things that I would recommend to your listeners.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, really, whether you use Money Grit or you use like Personal Capital or, mint.com or one of those, I think having a screenshot of your finances every month, knowing where you at, are you over budget, under budget, where your money's going so you can avoid, I like that money fog. Very, very great point there. And saving too, making sure that you are putting away a portion of your income every single month. I do it automatically where it just withdrawals from my account.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
and I think when you can automate things like that, it really does. It takes out the guesswork.
One thing I had to get used to is taxes, because Dubai does not have taxes.
Oh,
So I was like that I had to change my mindset about my financial mindset about, okay, I gotta, keep set aside some money for that. So
especially when you're self-employed or a
yeah.
1099.
Or when you do,
Um,
yeah, freelancing, yeah. And I do a bit
yep.
of freelancing work, so I definitely need to set some money aside.
Yeah, it's tough. And especially I'm realizing this now more so because I'm like now in the process of building my first home. And, I was looking at, okay, getting a construction loan to build out this, barn dominium out here in Montana. And, I don't know about you, but I write off a bunch of pretty much all my expenses, like everything as a self-employed person. Well, the banks want to see net income, not gross, So if you're
Yeah.
writing everything off, or a lot of it at least, and you're not showing much income, they base it off the net income, which was an important distinction. So anyone out there listening, if you are interested in building a home or buying a home in the near 2 years, you really need to think about how much you're actually claiming under net income. Fun fact there for you. So let's dive in now to spirituality. Do you have a happy hustle hack regarding spirituality that you can share with the happy hustlers? Anything that you do, to just tap into a higher power? I mean, not necessarily one God or another. I don't know what you believe in, but I just believe in a higher power. And I
Sure.
just think it's important to have that faith. Do you have a happy hustle hack?
Mm. So I like to think about spirituality more than practice it. I think the only practice that I have, like I love listening to spiritual podcasts. Like I love Oprah's Super Soul Conversations. I don't know if you ever heard any of
Yep.
her. Yeah, I absolutely love that because she has some great guests on that show. I actually love reading oracle and tarot cards. Yes,
Nice.
I have a witchy side. But that and astrology, I love the esoteric arts. I read runes. So that for me provides a higher form of guidance since I was a teenager. But I also balance that with practical, like rational logic, basically. I don't get too much into it. So it's like balancing what I learned from the guidance that I get from esoteric practices with a practical take on things. But yeah, but to answer your question, yeah, that's oracle card readings, tarot card readings, astrology. That's a huge part of my spiritual practice.
Ah, that's very cool. My fiance Steph, she loves her moon cards and her tarot readings and
Does
her
she? Yeah,
and
we
she's
should talk.
always oh, you guys would totally hit it off. You could talk forever. I think she just like paid as a tarot reader like yesterday. I saw her on there doing
Yeah.
this whole shamanic thing.
Oh, that's
I
so
don't
cool.
know.
And it's
Yeah.
not about finding out what's going to happen in the future. It's more about getting guidance. Because reading oracle cards and tarot cards, it's an it's an art. It's something that you kind of figure out using your intuition, right? And it's you have to practice. You have to get used to it because it really requires you to go within and get out of your ego and connect
Hmm.
to the deeper part of you, which is what I love about that. The symbology, um, the embedded meanings and the stories behind each of these cards, the archetypes behind that. So it puts me in a very different space when I'm reading cards. Makes me it definitely helps me access my intuitive wisdom, which I think we all need to do at times because we can get a lot of valuable advice from that part of us.
Yeah, I love that. Accessing your intuitive wisdom. I think there's so much noise out there where we all just latch on to other people's messages and other people's thoughts and beliefs and interests where when unless you're spending time alone like doing oracle readings or tarot cards or really just meditating or breath work or doing something where you're still and you and allowing yourself to access that intuitive wisdom, I think is a great takeaway for me. And I
Yeah.
like that you said that.
I also do quite a bit of journaling. I forgot to mention that. Yeah. I mean,
Mm,
I'm a writer, so yeah, journaling is an
yeah.
obvious choice. So
Yeah,
yeah,
naturally. Yeah,
yeah.
I love journaling. I journal every morning. And
Oh, do you? Okay.
um
Yeah.
yeah, have you done the morning pages, Julia Cameron's?
Oh, well, Carrie, I did that and then I couldn't keep up.
That's a
But
lot. Is a
the
lot.
problem is it takes too much time. It takes too much time. Like I
Yeah.
need to jump out of bed and head for my workout and get to
Yeah.
work in a couple of hours. So it's like I don't have like 30 minutes right after I wake up to just scribble some.
Yeah. It's a lot. So for those of you who aren't familiar with the morning pages, you're actually supposed to write 3 like uninterrupted pages of freehand. I found it to be a lot too. I think 1 page is like my happy place, and then I get diminishing returns after. I'm like, "Oh,
I like
okay."
diminishing returns.
Yeah. Yeah, very true. Well, this has been awesome, Celine. I know you have something super cool for the happy hustlers out there. Why don't you give us, some links where people can find out more about you, they can read your blog and talk about that pretty cool gift you have for the happy hustlers.
Yeah, so they can find me at thedreamcatch.com. That's my blog. My website is selineshenoy.com. They want to know about me and my podcast. You can find my podcast there as well. And as far as the gift is concerned, if they go to the Dreamcatch, they can sign up for a free ebook called The Fast Track Guide to Turning Your Dreams into Reality, which is just basically some exercises and some journaling activities that you can do to really get you to think about, what are the next steps that you need to take in your life, and how you can be more proactive when it comes to your goals and your dreams and all that good stuff.
All that good stuff. Yeah, guys, get that ebook, The Fast Track Guide to Turning Your
Turning.
Dreams into Reality. You can get that at selineshenoy.com. We'll link it up in the show notes. And then also check out that blog that's getting, crazy good traffic every single day, every single month, thedreamcatch.com. And Seline, I like to end all my awesome interviews with the rapid fire round. This is basically where
Oh,
I just ask you random questions and you answer honestly first thing that comes to mind. Are you ready?
let's do it.
All right. Favorite movie? Go.
Okay, I've got three. Disney's Pocahontas, You've Got Mail, and Beetlejuice.
You kind of look like Pocahontas. I can see that. That's great. Favorite food?
Favorite food? The Starbucks soy chai latte. I love it. And I can't live
That's
without it. I have it every day. Okay,
really
but yeah, I absolutely love it. Like it's an elixir for me.
that's hilarious. Favorite book?
Plus, I can't drink coffee. So anyway, favorite book. I'm gonna name three. *Sapiens* by Yuval Harari Noah, *Sacred Contracts* by Carolyn Mace, and *The Laws of Human Nature* by Robert Greene.
Nice work. What's your spirit animal?
I have two. So,
You got one or two or three of everything, huh?
Gemini. Okay, I got two sides. I
Okay.
gotta have a
Okay.
spirit animal for each one. The first one's a spider, and the second one's a cat. And not just any cat. It's like one of those badass cats, like a panther or something.
Okay. Like it. Best business advice.
Best business advice would be play to your strengths and delegate your weaknesses.
I like it. Do you have a superpower? If you could have, oh, not do you? I know you have one. It's writing. But if you could have one superpower, what would it be?
To be invisible.
Mm.
That way I
If
can go
you,
anywhere I want.
yes, that's true. Now, if you had one billboard that basically had your last piece of content and this was for the whole world to see, what would that billboard say?
It would say, take those chances and don't give up.
Love it. One word you wish to be synonymous with your name for the rest of your life.
Just one word?
Just one. I know you
Brave.
want to give us three.
Brave.
Brave. Love it. Awesome. And three things you're most grateful for.
My health, especially after COVID.
Mhm.
My family and friends, and the opportunities I've been blessed with, because I know that a lot of women, especially from my culture, don't have access, don't and do not have access to the kind of education that I received, and they don't have the freedom to become the kind of person that they want to be. So I never take that for granted.
Beautifully said. Seline, I just want to take a moment to acknowledge you. I thank you for sharing your love, your light, your wisdom with the Happy Hustlers. This has been
Yay!
awesome. Yeah.
And you're such a great host, from one host to another.
Oh, hey, appreciate that. Appreciate that. Do you have any final words for the Happy Hustlers out there before I ask you the last question?
Final words. Uh, I don't know. I'm trying to think of something without sounding cliche. I mean, just keep just keep going. I know we had a very tough year. I mean, a lot of people faced all kinds of atrocities, a lot of challenges, both health-wise, financial-wise, emotionally. It's been crazy, but I think we're almost at the end of that dark tunnel, and let's let's get back on track. Let's do this, and let's gear up for the next chapter of our life.
Love it. Now, final question. What does happy hustling mean to you?
Well, Cary, happy hustling to me means investing your mind, your heart and soul into something that you love, something that you're good at, and something that makes you money.
Oh, nailed it. Mic drop. Seline Shenoy, everyone. Thanks for watching and listening. Peace and love.
Thank you. Bye.